What's up, Instagram Live? Yes, surprise. So, this is my first time doing this, so I'm a little nervous. But I'm really excited that you're here. If you're watching this on replay, make sure that take some notes because what I want to do really is I want to take like a little deep dive. Hey, Ashley the Shula. What's up, girl? Hey. But what I want to do is take time to really do a deep dive in the posts that I make. So a lot of times we're scrolling through Instagram, hey girl, we're scrolling through, the content, but do we really take time to read what's in front of us? A lot of times we don't. I mean, sometimes you're rushing, sometimes you don't have time. So you might just pretty much, skim through the information there. But what I really want to do is take a deep dive in the different pieces of content that I drop. So specifically on the recent post that I made, I talked about what I call the trash can story. This was a story of if I want to set the time frame, this was a time where I really wanted to be a part of something. So a little backstory is I'm a West African immigrant. I hail from a country called Sierra Leone, Freetown. And one of the things that I find myself in the process of doing is trying to fit in. I didn't find myself being pretty much accepted in the schools I was in. So I thought that it would be better for me to shift and be more American, be more like everyone else. And unfortunately, that led me to follow the wrong crowd. So this story specifically was I'm rolling with the bad crowd. I'm rolling with the bad crew. And now we're trying to skip school. Because the thing is that we skip school so much that the administrator, so we got this new principal and he was super, super strict. So our little exit ways, and it's not funny, y'all. Don't skip school. Like, don't skip school. It's not, it's something that you really, really don't want to do because there's so much you can learn. There's so many things that you're going to get from being in school. So you want to make sure that you're taking school seriously. It's something that you really, really like take heed to. But anyway, so we got this new principal and he was super strict. He was actually a pastor at a church and this was something that he wanted to do to give back. So this school year, he pretty much shut down all the exit. Like, he's like, listen, we're noticing that a lot of people are skipping school, so we need to start implementing some safeguards. So he shut down like some of the exits that we were using. So we're in the bathroom, me and my homegirls, and we're like, how are we going to skip school? So as we're trying to think of a process, someone has a lighter and they decide, okay, let me turn the lighter on and let's see if the sprinkler system will go off and then we can use that as a way to skip school. So they tried that lighter up there and the sprinkler system didn't go off. Clearly that means that, that school probably was failing some like firefighter violations, but it didn't go off. So then the next idea was, you know what? How about we start a fire in the trash can? Now, I know what you're thinking, like, what were you thinking? But we weren't thinking. We were just thinking, like, we need to get out of school. We really want to skip. We want to go hang out with some boys. We want to chillax. We don't want to be in class. So here we go in the process of starting a fire in the trash can. So the fire starts, and we're thinking, like, okay, here's our moment. We're going to break out of school. But now the fire kind of gets out of hand, and here we go. We run out the bathroom. But we don't realize that they installed a camera system as you exit the bathroom to kind of see who's going in and out. Because, again, they noticed a lot of people were skipping class. And one of the places that people would hang out was in the restroom. So we skip out. We end up outside. The fire alarm goes off, and we're out there. And the way they had us held together, we pretty much knew we couldn't skip school. But again, we didn't realize that ultimately we were being recorded. So now we're in a situation where they see the time frame that the fire happened, and now they have all the people that were involved in that. So we find ourselves in a space where we are in a lot of trouble. The police is involved. I mean, they have like a fire, police, investigation folks that are involved. And now we're like, what are we going to do? So a couple of our friends started saying, we're going to say so-and-so did it. So literally, just think about it here. Hey, John Jack. Hey, fam. So just think about it here. Now we're in a space where we're starting to plot against each other. All these people who were once friends, now we're trying to come up with an idea to plot against each other and figure out what story we're going to tell so we can cover each other from getting in trouble. So I go in there, they seem nice, they're asking me questions, and they're like, what happened? Like, how did this fire start? And I'm just like, well, so-and-so did it. So I pinned it on the girl that we discussed that we were going to pin it on. So Later on, the investigation's over, and then my parents get a call, and they're like, "Okay, what happened? Like, what?" My parents are like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "We got paperwork that you got expelled from school." So even though we plotted, even though we had this idea and this plan in place to pin it on one person, I got expelled. I got expelled in that situation. So those so-called friends that I had clearly had other plans, and they pinned it on me. So what I want to talk to you guys today, and this was a post that I did recently, is when you have to assess consequences, because a lot of times you're going to make those last minute decisions. Hey, a little bit of everything with me. Hey, what's up? How you doing? How you doing? But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the importance of assessing consequences before you react, because the reality is, when that trash can fire started, we were being selfish, and we were thinking about skipping school, but we didn't realize the magnitude of what we were doing. We didn't realize that we could literally endanger every single person in that school. So literally, like, if we were to really assess the consequences of that before we even lit the match or lit the lighter, we would have thought like maybe this isn't something that we should do. So that's what I want to walk you through, assessing consequences, because you might be facing a situation where you got to skip school. And this isn't just for like youth, also adults. Like, sometimes we're not necessarily the best in making decisions. So I want you really to think about like, okay, if I need to make a decision, am I just going to respond, or do I really need to assess and think about the consequences, the pros and the cons, if I decide to make a certain decision? So in that situation, again, trash can fire started. If I would have thought about it prior to, consequences in that situation included death or harm. So literally, that fire could have raged to the point where somebody could have, like, some people could have lost their lives. It could have harmed a magnitude of people in that school, but we weren't thinking of that. We were thinking, hey, we want to skip school. The second thing is the damages in the bathroom. Clearly, the fire got to the point where, like, it went up against the wall. I mean, literally, the ceiling was damaged. So that bathroom literally had to be shut down because they had to fix all the damages. But we weren't thinking about the damages and the money that it was going to take for them to make those fixes. So we didn't think about the financial costs. We didn't think about the death or the harm. We didn't think about the damage in that bathroom. And not only that, that experience could have literally been traumatic for whomever. Like, just imagine being in class and then all of a sudden you hear that there's a fire going on. Like, some people can like literally have trauma from going through experiences like that. So just imagine the type of effect that we could have had to someone psychologically, emotionally, if it would have raged to the point where somebody got hurt, or raged to the point where someone now is affected emotionally. So we didn't think about any of these things. We just think, oh, we got to skip school, get to the boys, get to hanging out, get to chillaxing. We didn't assess all those things. So I want you to think about that next time you decide that you want to do something that could cause harm, it could cause just danger to someone. You want to think about the who, the what, the where, how, and why. And by the way, if this is something that is really, you think it's going to be beneficial to your friends, if you think it's going to be beneficial to people you know, hit that little airplane, little icon on the bottom, share it to someone, and just, let them know what we're talking about. So again, back to the message. So if you're in a space where you want to assess the consequences of making a decision, I want you to think about the who, what, where, how, and why. So I want you to ask yourself this question, like, before I skip school, or before I respond to this person that keeps bothering me, who could also be affected? So by you responding this way, hey, thank you for joining this live. But I want you to think, like, ask that question, who could this affect? When that fire in the trash can happened, we didn't think about the teachers. We didn't think about the students. We didn't think about anyone else in there and how this could affect them. So I want you to think about the who before you respond and you react or do something or go somewhere that you think, something bad could happen. So who could this also affect? And then the next thing, am I willing to face this person again? So if this is something that might affect someone, like say it's gossip, right? Say it's somebody that's gossiping, someone that tells you information, and now you're thinking about repeating it to someone else. Ask yourself, like, will I ever have to face this person again? Because if it comes back to that person that you were gossiping as well, if it comes back to that person that you were going around spreading these rumors, if you face them, how would you feel? How would you feel comfortable with seeing them face to face, or would you be embarrassed? Because it's a possibility that you will face the person again. I don't know if you guys watch Game of Thrones, but there's a story of, in the beginning of the season, one of the characters pushed this young boy out of the window because he caught him in a compromising situation. But he pushed him out the window with the hopes that he would pass away, that he would die. Well, the young boy lived. And now in this season, he literally gets to a location and now he's faced with a young boy who's no longer a young boy. He's a young man now. But now he's staring face to face at that person that he literally pushed out the window. So the thing is like, before you respond, before you spread a rumor, before you do any of these things, are you thinking like, if I face this person again, how would I feel if I'm face to face with that individual? Would you be embarrassed? Because I ran into people and I've seen people and I'm just like, ugh, I remember that time when I said this, that was wrong. So you have to think about that as well. Next thing is, am I willing to take the heat for my friends or tell on them? So again, if I go back to the story that I told you guys earlier, we're in a space where the investigators are like, okay, so who started the trash can fire? Who did it? And now I'm like, I wasn't prepared for this. I know we watch Law and Order and all these shows and people are prepared before they sit down with investigators, but I literally was in a room. My parents weren't there. It was just me and the investigators, and they asked, and I think they might have gotten some type of permission, but they asked, so, who started the fire in the trash can? And I'm like, I don't know. And again, earlier, me and my so-called friends, we plotted against one person who, again, we were just going to point it on someone, not realizing the magnitude of what was going to happen to them. But you have to wonder before you make a decision, am I willing to take the heat for my friends? Am I willing to tell on them? Am I willing to be what they call a quote unquote snitch? So if you don't want to possibly have to do that, don't put yourself in that situation, because when the heat is on, sometimes the people that you might think are your friends might flip on you, or they might say you did something that you really didn't do. The next thing is, are the people you're with trustworthy? Now, you would hope and think that the friends and the people you surround yourself with are trustworthy, but sometimes they may not. Or sometimes you have been so blinded by the fact that you want to be a follower and be a part of something, you didn't realize this whole time that this person wasn't trustworthy. The reality is, a lot of the people that I was hanging out with, a lot of them weren't trustworthy. I just wanted to be a part of something. I just wanted to be a part of the crowd. So what happened was, I was letting things slide, not realizing that I should have known that they were going to flip on me, or I should have known that they would possibly say that I did something that, we all had a part in, but they weren't trustworthy in the beginning. So it's really important that, again, when you have that mindset that you need to be a follower and you need to follow what everybody else is doing, sometimes you get so blinded by the fact that you want to be a part of something that you don't realize that these people aren't trustworthy. So ask yourself, like, are these people really trustworthy? Have these people really been there for me? Because if they haven't, or they've showed signs earlier that they're a little shaky, then when the heat is on, they might flip on you, or they might, say you did something that you didn't do. The next thing is, are you ready for the friendship to potentially be affected in a negative way? So just imagine, so the next year I ended up going back to school. And I ended up staying friends with one of the girls, and I don't even know why. Like, I got expelled for it. She didn't get in any trouble. And I never even thought about the fact, like, I should ask her, like, did you say that I did it? Because I thought the plan was to say so-and-so did it. I didn't even think about that. Again, I was still in that mindset of I want to be a follower, that I didn't even realize that my friend wasn't trustworthy. And I didn't even hold her accountable and ask her, like, hey, what happened? Like, and again, I was wrong too. I wasn't being trustworthy either, because I was literally about to, I did say that someone else did it that's played a small part in it. So I wasn't even trustworthy. So just imagine seeing that girl again. Our relationship was completely different. She didn't look at me the same. I didn't look at her the same. Why? Because she knew that I had pointed the finger at her. So again, you have to think about these things when you are situations where, some trouble might happen, because people flip on each other. So are you ready for that friendship to be potentially over? And sometimes things like that do need to happen in order for you to realize who your true friends are. But it's, certain things can hit your friendship. It could be gossip that you spread. It could be things that you did, and now that friendship that you once had is now dismantled because you might have did something that wasn't trustworthy. The next thing is, are you ready to face your parents? Are you ready to face, your loved ones? Are you ready to face anyone else that might be a third party in this? So you want to think about, okay, if I do something that my parents don't like, or if I do something that my friend doesn't like, if I do something that the people that I love don't like, am I ready to face them and explain to them what I did? I'm pretty sure we've seen those shows, we've seen those stories where it's like that mother has to face her son who has decided to do something that has truly impacted the entire family. She's embarrassed. She has to explain herself. She's thinking like, why would my baby do this? So just imagine being in a space where you have to face that parent that loved you and cared for you. Now you have to explain to them what you did. So think about that before you respond. Think about that before you act, because you will have to face your loved ones and explain to them why you did what you did. Am I willing to be expelled, suspended, or grounded? Am I willing to be in a space where I'm going to take in whatever consequences that comes with doing this? A lot of times we don't think about that. Again, when I skipped school, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to be expelled from school. Because literally that expulsion could have cost me a whole year of high school. It could have cost me it could have literally shifted everything that I had planned for my future. But I wasn't thinking about that. And thank God things shifted, where I ended up taking summer school, where I ended up taking extra classes, and I was able to graduate on time. But I wasn't thinking about that. So literally one decision that you make can truly change and shift your entire school year, your entire life. It could shift and push you back like months or years behind, because that one decision was that detrimental. So think about that. Am I willing to take the consequences that comes with this? And then finally, am I willing to give up my life for this? Again, I started a fire in the trash can. I mean, that's a big deal. Like, someone could have caught on fire. I mean, we could have been trapped in there. Like, it could be a multitude of things that would have happened. There's another story where I was out with my friends and they got into like a fight with some girls. And, you know, it was between them, but I was like, man, I'm like ride or die. I'm going to rock with my girls. I'm going to be like, I'm not going to just walk away while they get beat up. So I run up and I'm saying, no, I'm going to be here. I'm riding with my girls. And then all of a sudden, a girl pulls out a knife and puts it up against my hip. And it's like, whoa, things got real. It's like when keeping it real goes wrong, things got real that quick. So it's like I wasn't thinking I could possibly, when keeping it real goes wrong, I'm just saying that's what happens. And that's exactly what happened. She had this knife up against me and I'm like frozen. I'm like, that thug that I had in me, that thug love was gone. I was like quiet, like, ooh. And then all of a sudden, I got hit with a 1-2. It was like, I ain't moving, because I'm about to possibly lose my life. So you want to think about it. Am I willing to give up my life for it? Because that's the reality of it. Split decisions can cost and affect so many people. So I really want you to, moving forward, before you make any decisions, make sure you assess the damages. Assess the who, what, where, how, and why. Assess all those different factors, because again, that split decision can truly affect your life. It could affect someone else's life, your parents' life, and so on. So again, I hope you guys like this live. And again, there's an airplane button on the bottom. Share that to your friends. This is going to be on replay for 24 hours. So just make sure, you come back again. I plan on doing these every Monday night at 9 Central and talk about different things. Because again, my goal is to do a deeper dive of my content. We scroll through social media. It's quick to scroll. But sometimes it's good to just stop and really take in the information that you see on there. So my goal is to just, again, go in deeper with that information. Make sure you follow me on @YasBigFacts. Hey, thank you for your love and support. But make sure you go to my page, follow me on Miss Aisha Speaks. Hit up my website, aishathomas.org. And I appreciate your time, and I will holler at you later. Thank you. Deuces.